Bostrom Ministries. Beginning January 2018, Bostrom Ministries engaged in a whole new assignment by entering the airwaves of the world. Don't miss Ken and Mary Bostrom Ministries Live.
Hey, welcome to United in His Purpose broadcast, where Ken and I have the mandate of reaching the lost, teaching the found, and preaching the word, that we would all become united in His purpose. This is the 9th episode of Kings of the Divided Kingdom, and we've been talking about how the kings, once it starts with Ahab, all the kings of the northern 10 tribes, which is called Israel, they start paralleling with the presidents of the United States, starting with Bill and Hillary Clinton. You know, that's during the time of Ahab is when the fear of the Lord left the huge part of our nation. And so we've gone through AHAZIAH, we've gone through JEHORAM on the Israel side and JEHORAM on the Judah side, and that was kind of confusing. And now we're going to go to JEHORAM on the Judah side. Now, JEHORAM on the Judah side, both, his name means Jehovah is exalted. He is the son of King Jehoshaphat. He was 32 years old when he became king, and he reigned for 8 years. And he did not walk in the way of his father and grandfather. In 2 Kings 8:16, during the 5th year of the reign of Joram, Ahab's son, in Israel, when Jehoshaphat was king of Judah, Jehoram, Jehoshaphat's son, became king, Judah's king. He murdered all his brothers. He died of a bowel disease. And one of the things he did was he married Ahab's daughter, and we went over that quite a bit last time. One of the things that happened during his reign is the writing prophets began. Obadiah was the first of the writing prophets. He was the first of the minor prophets, and he, during the time of Judah, king of Joram, he prophesied against the land of Edom. He prophesied against the Edomites and the quickness of their destruction. That's the main two things in the book of Obadiah. The Edomites liberated themselves from Judah's control during the reign of Jehoram and gave aid to the foreign enemies. And so Obadiah was the first of the writing prophets, and he was raised up to give warnings to Edom. And so God is very much lining up the prophets with the kings back then. Now we're going to be coming to Jehu. This is a very interesting man. Jehu was, I'm going to have to read quite a bit, I think, out of the Bible, and I'm using the voice translations for just about everything. And so here we come to Israel's 10th king. And I'm going to read from 1 Kings 19:15 through 16. 1 Kings. And we're going back to 1 Kings. We have been in 2 Kings, but we're going to go back to 1 Kings because we need to find out how this all came about. 1 Kings 19:15 through 18. And this is when, remember when Elijah ran from Jezebel? And he actually ran to the cave that Moses had been in on Mount Sinai when he received, all the commandments, the Torah. And Eternal One says, Elijah said, I'm the last remaining prophet. He said, there's no other prophets here. There's no one else that loves you, God, just be. And the Eternal One says, travel back the same way you traveled here, and continue north to Damascus, for I want you to anoint Hazael as Aram's king. Now, Aram is another name for Syria. In the Old Testament, it's called by 3 different names: Syria, Damascus, or Aram. Jehu, Nishi's son, as Israel's king. So he said, I want you to anoint Jehu as Israel's king. And Elisha, Shaphat's son, to replace you as prophet. So Elisha is the one who wanted to replace him. Jehu will execute anyone who escapes from AHAZIAH, and Elisha will execute all who escape from Jehu. I will keep for myself 7,000 Israelites who have not bowed down to Baal and offered him kisses. And so this is the same thing. You know, in America right now, in different nations, people are wondering, is there anybody else that loves God? Is there anybody here that loves God? Is there anybody that is going to love God? You know, is there anybody that's going to, am I the only one left? I mean, sometimes you find like the whole world is going to pieces. But you know what? God had this all planned out. Now, Jehu's name is, God is exalted. Jehu. And he reigned 28 years. He took the throne in the 12th year of Judah's king Joram. And 2 Kings 9:30, he ended Jezebel's reign in the flesh. Now the flesh, one thing about this, the flesh dies, but the spirit does not. And so the spirit of Jezebel is going to continue. She's not going to be reincarnated throughout the book of Revelation. You're going to see that spirit come up, and it's worse if it shows itself strong in men. Men actually are worse with the spirit of Jezebel because it's all the spirit of control. The king of Israel who overthrew the dynasty of King Omri, who was Ahab's father. Now, so here, it's going to totally end. Jehu is the one that's going to end the entire dynasty of King Omri, which includes Ahab. And so here in 2 Kings 9, 1 through 13, he anointed commission to Ahab's command. King Joram is killed and thrown into Naboth's field. Verse 27, King AHAZIAH is killed. And when you come to 37, Jezebel is thrown down. Amazing, amazing. And so let me see what I have on that. There's so many different things about the paradigm in the paradigm book of Jonathan Cahn. It's chapter 27. It's called The Warrior King. And I love, on the 50-state tour of Chuck Pierce and Dutch Sheets, there was the state of Oregon surprised me what God had spoken that he was calling the state of Oregon in the last days. The state of Oregon is the state to throw Jezebel from the wall. I love that. It's the state Oregon. Now, we didn't think Oregon was going to be the state that's going to throw Jezebel off the wall. This is actually the home of Elijah List, if you ever listen to the prophets on Elijah List. And it's from, there was a lot, different people were saying that is going to be the place. Lester Summerall once said that the spirit of Jezebel was the main spirit of the end-time church to contend with. And so there's a lot of different things about Jezebel here that we're looking at. So now we're going to come to the paradigm of Jehu, King Jehu, remember? King Jehu, the 10th king of Israel. The paradigm, chapter 27, is called the Warrior King. And he says it's Donald John Trump. He calls Donald John Trump the Warrior King. And he totally man, the parallels of this are incredible. And so here we have Jehu had just won his most critical battle. Now here again, I'm getting this from Jonathan Cahn's transcript when he was on Sid Roth's show. Jehu had just won his most critical battle. The king and queen mother were dead, but the victory is not be sealed until he entered the capital city. In order to take the throne, he had to go to Samaria. But Samaria was a stronghold of the old regime, the house of Ahab. The city would be filled with its officials, its royal heirs, and its partisans. As long as Ahab's supporters and potential successors were alive, Jehu and his revolution would be in danger. You know, the Washington, D.C. government was filled with all the supporters of Obama. Trump was now in hostile territory. If you saw how hard it was for him to even get a cabinet elected, it was incredible. Even people on his staff ended up to be Judases. And so there was so many things. It's exactly like him coming into that that time. If you go into the book, it's exactly what it was like. Now, it's not in the book, it's not in the paradigm, but it's in the transcript from Sid Roth's show. He said Jehonadab's paradigm is Mike Pence. So here we have Mike Pence come in. On his way to the throne, Jehu meets a man named Jehonadab. Jehonadab was a mystery guy. He's identified in virtually every Bible commentary as a representative of the people of the land, particularly the religious conservatives of the land. Amazingly, Jehu meets Jehonadab. Likewise, Donald Trump, on his way to the Capitol, meets the religious conservatives. And the whole chapter 10, read the whole chapter 10 of 2 Kings, and everything you see about Jehu in there, you can start paralleling it to the President Trump and his presidency. And so when we come to AHAZIAH here, King AHAZIAH, remember, now this is confusing because there was a King AHAZIAH on the Israel side, but this is Judah's sixth king, AHAZIAH. His name means Jehovah holds. He's a son of King Jehoram and Athaliah. Remember, King Jehoram actually married Ahab's daughter, Athaliah. Amazing book that just came out this year, and it's called Jezebel's Revenge. It's written by Jennifer LeClaire. It just came out in 2021, and we're going to be getting to that in just a minute. So he was 22 years old when he became king, and he only reigned 1 year. Good for Judah that he only reigned 1 year, because he was wicked, wicked, wicked. He walked in the way of Ahab, who was his father-in-law. His father, he was his actually grandfather. And 2 Kings 8:28, Ahaziah joined forces with Israel King Joram. Joram was wounded. Both kings were actually put to death by Jehu, King Jehu. And in 2 Kings 9:22-27, Jehoram, face to face with Jehu, says, "Do you come in peace, Jehu?" And Jehu says, "Peace? What do you know about peace when your promiscuity and witchcraft of your mother Jezebel are too vast to measure?" And Joram quickly realized that Jehu intended to attack, so he immediately turned his chariot around, quickly rode away, and yelled to Ahaziah, Joram, "We are betrayed. Ahaziah, quickly ride away." But Jehu pulled his bowstring back as far as he could. He released an arrow that struck Joram between his shoulder blades, piercing straight through his heart. Joram fell over in the chariot. Jehu, his officer, pick up the body, throw him into the field of Naboth, Jezreelite, on the eastern side of Jezreel Hill. I have just remembered that while you and I were riding after his father Ahab, the Eternal revealed the prophecy concerning him. I have sent the past and witnessed Naboth's blood, that the sons as well. And one day you will pay back to the land, spoke the Eternal. So go now, pick up Joram's body, and throw him into Naboth's field, just as he has said. AHAZIAH, Judah's king, and witnessed all that from the distance, and he rode away to the path of Beth Hagan. And Jehu calling out, send an arrow towards his chariot and kill him too. And they shot him as he was driving towards Gur. And he did not die there. He continued to Megiddo, where he took his last breath. And so that is the story of AHAZIAH. He was an amazing one-year reign. And remember, Judah's kings do not line up with the American the U.S. presidents like the Israel does. And so because we have the lineage of David. Now, Judah's seventh king is actually a queen. This is the mother of King AHAZIAH. She took over. Now, her name means Jehovah has afflicted. Jehovah has afflicted. The mother of King AHAZIAH, she was the daughter of Jezebel and Ahab. She was queen and she reigned for 7 years. 2 Kings 11:1. When Athaliah, the mother of AHAZIAH, saw that her son was dead, she arose and she destroyed all her royal heirs. She arose and she destroyed all her royal heirs. Her own children, her own grandchildren, every one of them, she destroyed them. She absolutely destroyed them. In 2 Kings 22:11, she murdered her own grandchildren to obtain power. Now the word arose here that we see in 2 Kings 11:1, it's arising in a hostile way. It's coming on the scene. She did not wait for Judah to crown her. She took the crown and established herself. It speaks of confirming oneself, to persist, to prove oneself as valid. Athaliah was not the rightful heir. She was not the rightful heir. She had no lineage of David inside of her. She was trying to bring all the lineage of Ahab into the lineage of Judah. This was an insurrection. This was a coup to overthrow the government. I have a note here to look at page 42, so I will do that. Of Jezebel's revenge. But I'm sorry I brought that up because I can't find where I marked in there. So no one actually anointed Athaliah queen. She took the throne the way Ahab took Naboth's vineyard. You know how Athaliah took Naboth's vineyard? False accusations and conspiracy to kill him. And sound familiar? Remember, this book came out in 2021. So who am I likening this to? Well, that's interesting. Could it be what Zechariah, and Zechariah comes out during this time. Now Zechariah chapter 5, I should have had this ready, Zechariah chapter 5, 5 through 11. And we're going to read about the wicked woman in the basket. 5 through 11. The heavenly messenger who had been talking with me went out. It was time for the seventh vision. Now, when you come to the book of Revelation, it's 7, 7, 7, 7, 7, 7, 7, 7, 7, 7, 7. Everything is 7 in the book of Revelation. And here this is the seventh vision. Look up. What do you see moving forward? And Zechariah said, what is it? And heavenly messenger said, it's a 6-gallon basket moving forward. like a scroll, it too is a mark of judgment, carrying the iniquity that has committed the land. Suddenly, the basket's lead cover was lifted, and I saw a woman inside. She seemed to want out. Heavenly messenger, this is Lady Wickedness. The messenger pushed the woman back into the basket and placed the basket stone, that is lead cover, over the mouth so she'd stay inside. Then in the vision I looked up and saw the two women moving forward with wings resembling the wings of storks, with the power of the wind in their wings, and lifted the basket to a place somewhere far off. Now, this cannot be angels, because there's not women angels ever mentioned in the Bible. This has to be the power. She saw two women. This is the when women come into power. This is the time. They lifted the basket to a place somewhere far off between heaven and earth. And Zechariah said, "Where are you taking the basket?" And the heavenly messenger said, "It is being delivered to the land of Shinar, which you know as Babylon. A temple is being built there for it there, and once it is ready, they will put the basket in its own altar cart. Let the Babylonians worship what God has condemned." And so Babylon is not just, back then it was a country, but now it's more of a spirit, and the spirit of Babylon wants to take over. So this is the seventh vision. And is it possible the spirit of Athaliah is in that basket? Remember, she's more wicked than her mother. Athaliah is the most wicked harlot in the Bible, worse than Jezebel. Father was Ahab and did more to provoke the Lord than anger any other person in the Bible. One thing about Jennifer LeClaire wrote in there that the spirit of Athaliah will attack the legs. And Jennifer LeClaire describes how she had been teaching about Jezebel and Nigeria, and there was an attack upon the building, spiritual attack. They prayed it off and it left. And when she got home, she had an attack on her legs. And she just felt something start wrapping around like a rope and tightening, and she couldn't walk. She was in so much pain. She had bruises and swelling on her leg all the way up the calf, from her ankle to her calf. And it's amazing, because Jennifer LeClaire describes in that book what happened to her. And she said that swelling lasted for weeks, and the doctors didn't think it was ever going to go down. And here it was the spirit of Athaliah. Athaliah will tag team with the Python spirit and with the Jezebel spirit. And I am hearing of more and more people being attacked in their legs. Now remember, that book came out in 2021. And so Athaliah has a tendency to attack legs in the spirit realm. So here we're going to come to Judah's 8th king, JOASH. Well, let me go back. Let me go back to Queen Athaliah. If we're following the pattern from Ahab, the paradigm, we've seen every single king from Ahab down following the pattern. Is it possible for Queen Athaliah to fall into the pattern with the vice president that is now vice president? Very possible, very possible. Could this be Athaliah in a basket? And could this be the current vice president? So now let's go to Judah's 8th king, JOASH. His name means Yahweh is given. 2 Kings 11:2, the only survivor of King David's reign. He began his reign at age 7 and he reigned 40 years. He was rescued by the priest's wife, and he was a paternal aunt of Jehoshaphat. And here the priest, Jehoiada, helped Joash to serve God. But when he died, the young king had terrible counsel. And so here we have, Joash was rescued as a baby. He was rescued as a baby from, when AHAZIAH was killing all of the children. He rescued it. This aunt rescued him. And here we have the priest actually who raised him, and him and his wife, they hid him in the prophet's room, and they raised him. And they said he was good as long as the priest was alive. He started his reign. This was a child king. He started at 7 years old, his reign. And as long as the priest was alive helping him, he did great. But as soon as the priest died, he started getting terrible counsel from people. You should never have people in government that give bad counsel, ungodly counsel. And Jehoiada's son Zechariah, prophesied to the people and was stoned. And so here we have this next writing prophet, Joel, and he's the second of the 12 minor prophets, and he prophesied during King Joash' reign as child king. The people had experienced invading armies, but nothing like the swarm of locusts that happened. Joel draws the parallel to another invasion that's coming, and he said, but it also promises a pouring out of his spirit and a punishment to the wicked. Now, when you liken that to now, we have in Joel it happening again in the 20s. This is a picture of the locust invasion that was in Africa, January 26, 2020, this picture was. And here's what Joel 1:14 says. So consecrate a holy fast, call everyone together, gather all the elders and leaders of the land, of who live in the land. Call everyone to the temple of your God, the eternal, and cry out to him with your heart. And so this is millions of locust invasion that was coming upon in Africa and in Kenya. The worst invasion, a locust invasion in 72 years. But remember what Joel said. He said, he draws a parallel with the coming invasion to come. It's going to be bad, but God is going to pour out his spirit. He is going to pour out his spirit in all flesh. And Peter reminds us of that in Acts chapter 2. So get ready for the outpouring. God bless you. Bye-bye.